I did want to begin talking about Tyrese Haliburton and his father last night. There was, honestly, in the spirit of honesty, I didn't even watch the game. Okay, I was watching the Knicks and the Pistons, which was like an awesome game, and I saw on my ESPN alerts that I swear that one at least I didn't click on and have it disappear, but I saw that the Pacers went on a furious 8-0 run at the end of the game, and it was capped off by a Tyrese Haliburton game winner. So Haliburton wins the game. It's like the most amazing moment. Remember now, earlier this week or late last week, there was an anonymous poll taken by NBA players, and they said that Tyrese Haliburton was the most overrated player in the NBA. Okay? Last night, 26 points. We talked about he hit the game winner, 10 of 22 from the floor. And now the Bucks move on, or excuse me, the Pacers move on. They beat the Bucks 4-1. And now if you're the Bucks, it's like, kind of like time to rebuild, potentially. And Giannis could be a part of that rebuild. Dame Lillard probably going to be out for all of next year too, because that's like just a demoralizing injury. But at the end of the game, Tyrese Haliburton's dad, and I can provide context on this just from what I know from past years working around sports and calling games and working in the NBA, kind of like how it goes backstage at arenas. But, front of the house after the game is Tyrese Haliburton's dad. And he's literally on the floor holding up, I guess it was a poster that his son had, or a poster of his son. And he's on the floor, and everybody's celebrating over here, okay? And Tyrese Haliburton's dad is in front of maybe one of the best players, definitely one of the best players in the NBA, arguably the best player in the world as of like a couple years ago. And he's holding up a sign of his son, and apparently he's swearing and talking smack to Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's the images right there. Prior to them getting face-to-face like this, like Haliburton's dad, there was like 15 feet in between the two of them. And he was just egging on. Like, in no way, shape, or form did Giannis Antetokounmpo ask for this interaction, right? He was stunned, thinking about, I can't believe we blew this lead. I can't believe our season is over. His hands were on his hips. And then all of a sudden, Tyrese Haliburton's dad comes up on him like Shedeur from Hoosiers. I mean, think about it. That's the number one thing that came to my mind was Dennis Hopper and his character being drunk at a game. Nice work, Scotty. And approaching the court, walking onto the court, and they had to usher him out of there because he was supposed to not be drinking, and he showed up. He was the town drunk. So Tyrese Haliburton's dad is now basically Shedeur from Hoosiers, and it's to the point. That's a good version of Shedeur, right, when he was all cleaned up. So we look forward to seeing that version of Tyrese Haliburton's dad down the stretch in the rest of the playoffs. But that moment for Tyrese, right? I mean, think about the chip on his shoulder throughout this playoff series, especially after that gets announced. Your peers are polled, apparently. And you are named the most overrated player. That's got to piss you off, okay? Especially because the poll, again, conducted by your peers, or allegedly it was. So you take away, you send the world champions as of 2-3 years ago, you send them home, okay? Giannis and one of the best players in basketball, and you're feeling triumphant, and then you're talking to Pat McAfee on FaceTime in the locker room. It's like a really great moment for Tyrese Haliburton. Indianapolis has adopted that dude, right? A guy from the Midwest who Big 12, right? Started at Iowa State, but clearly is having a really wonderful NBA career. And then you at some point get hit with news that your dad, again, rolled onto the court like Shedeur from Hoosiers and kind of ruined the moment for you. And in the press conference, Tyrese has to go on the record and say, what my dad did was out of line. Not like there's two ways to look at it, right? I'm not a therapist, but that's a bummer, right? In your biggest moment ever, you're apologizing for your father. My dad wasn't perfect, but I never had to worry about him in the middle of the field, in the middle of Prevost Field, after we had a huge win against Newman Goretti in the semifinals to get in the Catholic League Championship. My dad was ever holding up a poster of me, egging on a member of the opposite team, Greg Yotis from Father Judge. Hey, like, you suck. Like, it's really kind of crazy to think about it. So that's just kind of a bummer for Tyrese. And but good to see the Pacers move on. So context to this, right? Now, if this, I do want to make a point. If this was me or Scotty, okay, we would never be allowed, and let's say we were credentialed media, we would never be allowed back in the building again. Like, it's kind of crazy. And it's not like, Tyrese Haliburton's dad isn't going up to a member of the Pacers and celebrating with him. He's starting a fight with Tyrese Haliburton, with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And if Giannis Antetokounmpo is Steven Jackson circa 2004, like, this might be a bloodbath. This might be a much different story this morning. Giannis is class personified. But how does this happen, right? Apparently this dude is a great guy. This is courtesy of Brian Windhorst this morning. Apparently this dude is a great guy. So he is friendly with everybody. You go to 80 or 41 home games plus preseason plus postseason now, right? And you've been doing this for years because your son's a part of the organization. You're basically like family with the folks that work security. Everybody knows you as Tyrese Haliburton's dad. You're getting way more grace than the average fan. And that in itself can become a problem. In the back of the house, like I mentioned, there's probably not a VIP room that Tyrese Haliburton's dad can't walk right into. There's probably almost no place he can't go. And they're probably very friendly with him. Again, and that's cool. It's like a family atmosphere. But now, you got a situation where after the game, there's celebration. Tyrese Haliburton's dad slips through security, and now he's standing at center court, like arguing with one of the best players in the world about how good his son is. This doesn't make any sense to me. But it's what happens. So I think he should get like a slap on the wrist, kind of fine. I think it's crazy that I do think it's funny. Like, I watched a little First Take today. They're talking about it like it's the Kennedy assassination, which is also like kind of wild, like Molly is like clutching her pearls and Stephen A. And honestly, the one guy who I love on that crew is Brian Windhorst, because he's just kind of like, hey, here's the story. He's a good dude. I've actually traveled the world with him. Apparently, Wendy must have covered the Olympic team, right? And so he's gotten close. What's that face for?
Molly, Tyrese Haliburton is class personified. He's great for this league. But there is no reason his dad should be on the court in Giannis's face.
If there's anybody who should be fighting with players courtside, it's me. With LeBron James. It's like, okay.
And at least I have the dignity to stay on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for that.
But that was a wild scene, dude. Let's get to Jeff Ulbrich and his son. Here's the story.
Yeah, here's the story from ESPN. The NFL has fined the Atlanta Falcons $250,000 and defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich $100,000 in response to the prank call made to Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft. Ulbrich's 21-year-old son admitted to the prank call and apologized on Instagram. The Falcons said in a statement Sunday that Jax Ulbrich wrote down the number from his father's open iPad while visiting his parents' home to later conduct the prank call. The NFL said the fines are for failing to prevent the disclosure of confidential information distributed to the club in advance of the NFL draft.
I mean, I can tell you what my dad would have done. It would not have been pretty.
Nope.
It would not have been pretty.
Nope.
I mean, so you're talking about a kid who's in college. If you're the kid, right, you really got to own it. And you got to own it, and you got to just, whatever's coming your way, that's it. That's what's coming your way. Yeah. I mean, depending on what type of parents you have, you made an epic mistake. I did a lot of crazy stuff when I was a kid. I don't know that I would have had the balls the size of church bells to do that. To prank call I don't know. Knowing my history, there would have had to been many beers involved,
And there might have been, likely were.
Yeah. I mean, a co-ed, right? A young guy, but I mean, I initially I think it's okay. I mean, I really do. Like, I think the fine is okay. You know, the team didn't do anything to Ulbrich. Yeah, they said they wouldn't. And so the team not doing anything. It's the same thing with the Pacers, by the way, and the Haliburton situation. Like, the Pacers probably aren't going to do anything, but the NBA will. And a lot of times it's up to the league to come down and smack these guys around a little bit, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think I would want to commend the Atlanta Falcons in this situation, by the way. Like, I know that it's a big money league, but like $250,000 is $250,000. Like, that's a pretty hefty fine to put on the team.
Yeah.
For, like you said, a mistake a college kid made. So I think to get behind Ulbrich and keep him on staff, like, that's a lot of grace, I think, in a world where we're quick to just cut people off and let them go, you know?
Yeah.
Applause for me for the Atlanta Falcons for how they've conducted it, but yeah, kind of a bizarre situation. But now, I mean, here's what this fine does too, though. Every single coach in the NFL this week is having a conversation with their kids to say, "Hey, Dad's job is a big deal. You do not ever look through my stuff, and use my stuff for your entertainment." You know,
and I will say this too. This was, I don't know what my dad would have done. Honestly, at that age, I was in college. I don't know that it would have gotten physical, but it might have, because this is like that.
Yeah.
Like, there may have been like, and again, I was, and at that point in time, I was involved with football. I was football, so I was like probably bigger than my dad, but I was always scared of my dad.
Yeah.
So
right.
there would have been a lot of this.
Well,
there would have been this. There would not have been any other type of move.
Yeah, I have a father who's been very, very gracious towards me when I've made mistakes.
Yeah.
But what this would trigger in him would be like, this was my responsibility, my work, my confidential information from the NFL.
Yeah.
So now you've actually stepped on my stuff, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just a mistake you made for you.
Yeah.
You know, again, frankly, my dad in my life, when I've made mistakes that affect me, he's been very gracious and supportive and helpful. But when it's a mistake that now it's costing you at your job, oh, buddy, like, that's where it would have gotten.
It's pretty interesting today.
Spooky.
What we're talking about. We're talking about a father embarrassing a son with the Pacers, and a son embarrassing a father. With the NFL, and
totally.
it shows.
And by the way, we didn't get to it because you didn't ask me, but that's okay. Giannis and Tyrese, I thought both post game.
Oh yeah,
handled it with every ounce of class and chill.
And the same thing with Shedeur, right? I mean, these are
yes.
not purposely, but these are kind of opportunities for people to show who they really are. And Shedeur was like, I'm not worried about that.
Just
you know, like that's negative. Let's keep it moving. And so that was the first real thing about Shedeur, where you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, this is like, this guy he does kind of vibrate on a different level. We know that because of his spirituality and his confidence and, you know, his faith. So that was pretty cool to see that. I think with the Haliburton deal, you feel bad because it's his father. Again, it's like Shooter from Hoosiers.
Yeah.
I think with the Ulbrich deal, you kind of want the kid to get his.
Yeah.
You're like, you don't necessarily feel bad for Jeff Ulbrich. You're just kind of like, all right, that kid's he's about to get what's coming to him. I would imagine if he doesn't, that family's got a problem I can't solve. But what do I know about parenting? I don't have any kids, so I'm not really not inclined to delve into those waters. But I can say, in my house, there would have been a come to Jesus.
Yep.
For sure.